Hi, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by two Formula One musketeers. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your rebel host, Luigi. And today we're taking you back to the 1974 season, part 1. So let's go. So you're competing with me with unusual terms now. Musketeers.
Well, I've run out of like terms to mean that we're fans. So I've gone into the movie genre,
Yes.
and I'm picking up the times of the year that we're looking at. And yeah, in 1974, the Three Musketeers was released. It was a big movie release. So I thought we could be musketeers, Luigi.
Yes.
Fight the good fight.
But there's only two of us. Oh, maybe we could do. Maybe you should have left this for the TP episode when there's three of us.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, geez.
Rebel. That's a good song.
It is, and I didn't realize it was that old. It sounds a lot more modern. It sounds a lot more modern than 74. It sounds like an 80s song.
Yeah, it does. It does. No, good on you. All right, 74.
Yes, so welcome to the year of the oil crisis. So we talk about this much. We sort of alluded to it. We talked about the Middle East conflict that nearly derailed F1 in 74.
Yeah, this is 74, Louis.
I know, but it started in end of 73 is what I'm saying.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. No, we talked about it in the TP with Dan, didn't we? Yes, that's right, for 73, and it was coming. Yes, in October 73, the Organisation of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, announced that it was implementing a total oil embargo against countries that had supported Israel at any point during the Yom Kippur War in 1973. That's a big move. I do remember, now that you mention it, and I said this in TPE, I do remember studying this as like one of the major economic kind of incidents of the markets. But obviously I didn't know about it. So, yeah, but in March 74, they lifted the embargo, but the price of oil had risen by nearly 300% from $3 a barrel US to $12 a barrel. And, yeah, it caused an oil crisis.
And the interesting thing is I just looked up then, what's the cost of oil barrel today? Do you want to have a guess?
I'm going to say in the $50 or something.
Yeah, not bad. I would have gone much higher because I would have thought, 74, 2025, 2000. Do you get what I mean? Like as an inflation. But no, you were right. $64.
Oh,
close.
There you go. Yes. So there was a lot of pressure on F1, I guess, at the time.
Yeah. So luckily the F1 teams banded together and leveraged the hard facts that F1 uses a relatively small amount of fuel. And so the show continued with 15 races for the 74 scheduled season.
Still very unsettling, I guess, at the beginning of the season, but it probably bonded all the teams together, I guess. Like a crisis brings everyone together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it puts all vested interests aside. Like, if we don't work on this, we're not racing in this year.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah. And there was also another new challenge that took place because 70s is a season where there's so many teams that come into Formula One, many that don't last long. And it was starting to cause some real overcrowding.
Yeah, and this came to a head at the French Grand Prix, where the Constructors Group and the CSI, as we know, the FIA of the day, agreed that everyone could participate in practice, but only a predetermined number of cars were allowed to participate in the race, depending on the length of the track, which is, I can just see that becoming mayhem decisions. But anyway, so most races had 25 cars racing, but I think we see as we go through that even that doesn't make sense on some tracks where we think they could have had more and they still don't. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
It will be interesting. So it's interesting to see that there was a boom in Formula One back then, but it wasn't a boom in people watching, it was a boom in people participating. Oh, but commercialism was kicking in though. There's a lot of sponsorship kicking in. So I guess sponsors follow the crowd. So there was a Netflix Drive to Survive boost in the 70s.
But it was a Drive to Survive drive instead of watch TV.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So let's start with the champions of 73, Lotus. So what's their status? Let's do a quick recap of the opening of 74.
Yeah, well, I mean, Lotus really only won the constructors because Tyrrell withdrew from the last race of 73. If you remember, they had a very sad incident with their driver, Francois Savert, and they withdrew. So that handed them the championship.
So most likely because they had a 1 point.
Yeah, they only had a 1 point advantage. Yeah, they had a 1 point lead.
Tyrrell had a 1 point lead, I think, and then Tyrrell didn't participate.
Withdrew, yeah.
Lotus still needed to score more points, but there was no one else.
Yeah. No, there was really no one else to challenge them. Yeah.
So Lotus developed a fancy new car called the Lotus 76. And I'll complain again. I've complained before. I hate it when they use numbers that are similar to the year. So the Lotus 76 for 74 with an electronic clutch mechanism, which required a split-footed brake pedal. And it still looked like the revolutionary Lotus 72, but had a unique twin aerofoil. However, this car was not successful, and the team instead adapted the Lotus 72 and called it the 72E, and that's what they used most of the season. So sounds like one of Colin Chapman's
two-footed brake pedal. That sounds very confusing. Two-footed brake pedal. So what? You had to take your foot off the accelerator to use the brakes. Like I imagine when you're driving a Formula One car, you'd pretty much still be like accelerating while using the brake.
Well, who knows how? And it's an electric clutch mechanism, which required the two-footed brake pedal. So Colin Chapman's obviously pushing the boundaries, and he obviously gets it right sometimes and he gets it wrong sometimes.
This time he got it wrong. Yes. Okay. All right. So Tyrrell started the season with their successful 1973 cars, the Tyrrell 005. So they've named their cars after Bond people, Luigi. But during the season, they launched their Tyrrell 007. Oh, come on. Surely they would have matched that with like a Bond film. But there wasn't a Bond film released in 74, as I've just found out.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no, I think there was. There was a Bond film released in 74. Anyway, that's a marketing that's a marketing opportunity missed. So, yeah, their Tyrrell 007 had a side-mounted radiator and a wedge-shaped nose.
And that's like following the Lotus side radiator thing, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
So McLaren, the third most successful team of 73, they spent most of 74 racing a modified M23. And the most interesting aspect of the McLaren team was that Fittipaldi had left Lotus because of frustrations he felt towards the end of last year. You may recall the dummy spit he had about, was it Peterson?
Yes. Peterson, yep.
And he came to McLaren along with the sponsorship of Texaco. However, the existing sponsor of McLaren, Yardley, which we talked about last time, was that Soaps?
Yes.
Yes. They still had a contract, and as such, McLaren ran Hayward in a Yardley branded McLaren, and Fittipaldi and Holm ran with the Texaco Marlboro McLaren.
That's weird.
I know.
It would have felt like Hayward was part of a different team.
Yeah. I'm not saying cigarette smoking is cool, but is it cooler than soap? I think it is.
I think so. I think it would have given them a different feel, wouldn't it? Like,
yeah, one's a soft tea and one's we're gonna do something that's gonna kill us. That's how risky we are.
Right, exactly. So you did mention a big driver change in Fittipaldi, but it was actually one of the most frantic close of seasons last year, and only Ronnie Peterson, Denny Holm, Carlos Reutemann and James Hunt remained with their teams. Everyone else moved.
That always makes it very interesting. Yeah. So it was considered that when Fittipaldi left Lotus, it was not positive, and Denny Holm was in his 7th year with the team. I think he went straight from Brabham to McLaren.
Yeah. I know you've got a little. I did go and have a look at Holmes' record at McLaren over the 6 years.
Leading up to this,
you've always said he gets his one win for the season. So I had a bit of a look, and he started in 69 and he finished 6th with one win, which was pretty good for McLaren at the time, I think. 1970, he finished fourth with no wins, which is pretty good. Like fourth in the championship with no wins. Like that's his consistency. And he only had one second place. We've got to remember though, 70 was Stewart, didn't he? And he cleaned up that. Yeah. 71, he finished 13th, no wins, and not much happening in 71. 72, he finished third with one win. Like that's also pretty good. In 73, he finished sixth with one win. And here we are in 74.
Yeah. So let's see what he does.
So he's just the consistency man.
Yeah. But did
And you have to
McLaren sign him as their number one, Fittipaldi? You'd think so.
Oh, you'd think so.
Yeah.
And I also thought, Louis, that I would compare that to his actual championship. In 1967, he was a world champion and he only had 2 wins.
Are you sure he had 2 wins in 67? Okay, you double check that. Okay.
In 68, he finished third and he had 2 wins. So the guy just is consistent. Like he's always in the points, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
He's a very good number 2.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay, so in other driver switches, we have Jackie X. He moved from Ferrari to the Lotus team. Remember, 73 was not a good year for Ferrari and Jackie X. They had a bit of a split and Jackie drove the McLaren a little bit. So he's gone to Lotus alongside Ronnie Peterson. I think who would be number 1 there, Louis? Don't know. Probably Peterson.
That was the interesting thing because we'll talk about that during the season. Let's leave it at that.
Okay,
because
leave it at that.
I think Peterson's the older driver, but not by much.
Okay.
It's not like one's a young gun or anything is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And the Tyrrell team, they needed a bit of a restart from a driver perspective because Stewart had retired. And as we said, Severt tragically passed away. So Ken Tyrrell turned to his rather inexperienced other drivers, Jody Scheckter and Patrick Depailler. So, yeah, and so Depailler had filled in for the team twice in 1972, but was pretty inexperienced. And remember, everyone thought Jody Scheckter was a bit of a hothead.
Yeah, interesting. And so it's a restart for them. And the Brabham team used an updated version of their 73 car, and they were led by Carlos Reutemann.
Yeah, so the Surtees team and the March team and the Shadow team also had designs that were just natural developments of their 1973 cars. But we're not going to go into it because we're not that techie.
No, it's not that we're not that techie, but unless they're real contenders, we won't go into it too much. Yeah,
and we're not that techie.
Yeah, true. Yeah, definitely not. BRM is still going.
Wow.
So they lost Regazzoni to Ferrari. And the interesting thing is they lost their Yardley sponsorship to McLaren due to poor results. They couldn't even hold on to Yardley, the soap company. And they persisted with their own V12 engine, which is quite a big thing for a small British team to do, you know?
Like they just seem, and I don't mean this in a bad way, and it's not because I know what happens to them, but they just seem like they're just slowly sinking. Like there's a hole in the fuselage. And they're just slowly sinking into obscurity. Like, why don't you just take the Cosworth engine? Like, why are they persisting? They're not Ferrari. They're not like a big team that can sink lots of money into their own engine program. Like, I don't get it. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, it's not like they have a Ferrari. Sorry, Ferrari sells sports cars and that sort of funds their Formula One activities.
Yes.
BRM, we're not selling BRM sports cars. Not that I know of.
No.
And I don't even know if one would want it anyway, to be honest.
No.
Yeah. So
anyway.
This leads us to Ferrari because it's interesting that I think he jumped ship at the end of 73 with all those issues. So Regazzoni returned to the fold after a dismal 73 at BRM and joined Niki Lauda at Ferrari.
Yeah, okay.
Ferrari finally built a very competitive car that maximized their own V12 engine. And they undertook many modifications to the car, including, dare I say it, serious aero updates. So I don't know how Enzo handled this.
No.
They did spend most of the year with a never-ending range of rear wing modifications. So let's put this in perspective. BRM basically even lost their 2 drivers to Ferrari.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. It would be interesting to see how they go. So Enzo's finally on the aero train. and they've got a big V12 engine. So, looking forward to it, Louis. Williams continued, and they had a former Ferrari driver, Arturo Merzario, as their lead driver, but they had a lot of other drivers, which again, they don't really feature much this year, Williams. So if we mention them, it's because they've done something.
And the 3 new teams entered this season, and they included Embassy Racing, which is Graham Hill's team. Remember, he couldn't get a drive, so he started his own team. Hesketh Racing and Ensign. So Hesketh used a March chassis, and Embassy used the Shadow chassis, and Ensign developed their own chassis.
You're not wrong. There's a lot of teams entering into the 70s era, isn't there? Which, I mean, I've heard of Hesketh, but I've never heard of Embassy and Ensign.
You'll be hearing about Ensign more and more. But these are the Formula One cars that we would not take too much effort to pull some money aside. I'm sure we could buy one of those.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because when you think about it, they're not exactly collectible. And as long as they've got I could be wrong, by the way, but I suspect I'm not. But as long as they've got a Ford Cosworth engine, they're probably pretty good to maintain.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to drive one. Could we drive it around a racetrack, Louis?
Let's make that one of our objectives. So when we get successful with this podcast, we want to either buy or have someone let us drive their Hesketh Ensign or some car like that.
I want to drive the Shadow. It sounds cool.
Okay, you can drive the Shadow.
All right. So there were also other teams tried Formula One, including Japanese Mackie and Lincar. Is it Lincar or Linecar?
I don't know. Yeah.
But neither of them qualified for any races on the grid. So good on them for trying, but better luck next time.
And some teams didn't even get that far. Like some teams, or those teams went to the races, but some teams shelved before they even started, or they shelved at the end of the season, but they did participate. And they included the Amon team, Token, Trojan, and 2 other teams started late in 74 were Parnelli and Penske, but too late to make any real impact. And Penske is a bit of a name in motor racing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And so Amon, was that after the Amon racing car driver? Did he start his own team?
Yeah, he started his own team. And I think even during the season, he started his own team, drove in it a bit, and then decided he was better off driving another team car.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this season was also the first, and I think we touched on this last year. This was the first year in which teams had permanent racing numbers from race to race. So, it started in 73 at the Belgian Grand Prix.
Yeah, and it was based on their finishing position in the previous year's championship. So if they won the championship, they got the 1 and 2, with the winning championship driver getting the 1 and their teammate 2. But then otherwise they had typically standard numbers. And I think, Rosa, this started in 74. This is where it doesn't exist anymore, but for those old schoolish people, Ferrari always used to be 27, 28. Remember that? And
yes, I do remember that.
Everyone wanted 27 because that was Jules Villeneuve's number.
Ah.
Yeah, so.
Wow, that's exciting.
That doesn't exist anymore.
That's interesting. No. Drivers get to choose their numbers now, don't they?
Yeah, unless they're champion.
Yeah, unless they're champion. So 74 was a bit of an anomaly because there was no world champion because Jackie Stewart had retired. So Ronnie Peterson took the number 1 as he was the team leader of the Constructors' Championship Lotus. And so this would happen again in 93 and 94, and the number 0 was used.
And I think that might be the answer, Rosa, to your question for the Lotus team.
Yes.
Who do they think was their number 1? The guy they gave the number 1 to.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay.
So this system meant, for example, Tyrrell, who never won the title, maintained the numbers 3 and 4 right through to the system changing in 96.
Wow.
So that means the 27, 28 would have been similar, except when Ferrari won the championship, which is just once in that time. Oh, no.
Yes.
No, that's not right.
No, they did.
They won it many
didn't.
times, but 27, 28 is what they had most of the time.
That's sad. Does that mean they finished 27th and 28th in the Constructors?
I reckon, Rosa, we can get one race in. We've made this episode's gone a bit longer, but it's been a big opening because lots of drivers changing triggers a lot of discussion, doesn't it?
Yeah. We had to set the scene. There's a lot of cars on the grid. There's some rule changes and a lot of change in drivers. So, let's go.
Okay, so we start with race 1 of 15, the Argentinian Grand Prix. It's at Buenos Aires, Jan 13, 53 laps, and the weather was hot. So again, for the third year in a row, the Argentinian race was the opening race. However, this time, it's hard to describe what this really means, but they were using track number 15 instead of track number 9.
I did wonder. I had to look it up, but yeah, there was multiple tracks, I guess, configurations that they can use at the Grand Prix, right? Like track, maybe is that the way to say it? So it looks a bit. So track 15 is a bit like it's a bit like an oval track. Like 70% of it is just a big oval, and then it's got a bit of a leg and foot jutting out of one corner, and a nutcracker of sorts on the other corner. Clearly, it's probably not. I've not done a very good description of it, so I'll just go and look it up, I think. But yeah, it's an interesting looking track.
Yeah. And there's a lot of interest in this race because there was a huge amount of driver shuffling, as we talked about, with a lot of interest in Fittipaldi's move from Lotus to McLaren alongside the Vetrum home.
Yeah, so there was a lot of interest as one of his great rivals had also retired. So who was going to be the number, like who was going to rise up against the 72 champ?
Yeah, and as this was a new track for these F1 cars, many drivers were taking their time to not only learn the track, but I guess learn their new cars.
Yeah, so qualifying was quite dynamic and a lot of the drivers were really impressive. And in typical exciting fashion, the last 20 minutes provided the perfect conditions for the drivers to really go for it. Regazzoni in the Ferrari, who had set a blistering time of 1 minute 50.96 the day before, looked set for pole, but Fittipaldi in the McLaren just crept closer and closer to the Ferrari car.
Yeah, and it was with 5 minutes remaining that Peterson set a time of 1 minute 50.78, which was enough to secure pole position, even though he was having a great deal of trouble with his new Goodyear tyres, giving him oversteer prior to this. So once he resolved that, he was really on the pace. And that was that. Peterson, Lotus on pole, making sure everyone knew he was the number one, followed by Regazzoni in the Ferrari, surprisingly outdoing Lauda because Regazzoni was owned by Lauda in the BRM team, I think, I recall.
Yes.
Fittipaldi was third in the McLaren and Revson in the Shadow was fourth.
That's pretty good for Revson in the Shadow.
Yeah, that is very good.
So Hunt was fifth in the Hesketh and Reutemann in, I'm going to say, a Gordon Murray designed Brabham ET44 was sixth. So that's a great start to this season, really. 5 different marks in the first 6 positions and Hunt right up there in the privateer, big spending Hesketh party team.
Yeah, that's right. And if Fittipaldi, and I wonder if Fittipaldi was having doubts about his move from Lotus to McLaren because Lotus looked fairly good as even Ickx was in 7th place. But, he out-qualified them, but he saw his former teammate on pole.
Yes. Well, at least Fittipaldi easily out-qualified his 2 McLaren teammates. Hayward was 9th and Holm was 10th. Yeah, so anyway, we'll see how he goes.
Okay, so to the race, as the new cars completed the warm-up lap, the crowd was very vocal in their support of local driver Reutemann, who was in the Brabham and lining up in 6th place. And I'll just say quickly before we talk about that, I watched a little bit of video footage of this race prior to this recording. Yeah. They are just constantly partying and hitting these little metal sounds and dancing. And it's just, they're just living in atmosphere. Yeah, the atmosphere in the party zone was constant.
Yeah, so, okay. So guess who dropped the flag for this race, Louis?
Argentina.
Oh, come on. It was Fangio.
Oh, so Fangio. What about the other guy?
Which other guy?
Gonzalez.
Oh, Gonzalez. Is he still alive? I don't know. Didn't he die? Oh, I don't know.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Would you pick Gonzalez over Fangio though? Come on.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So Fangio dropped the flag as it should be.
Gonzalez was alive. He died in 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was around.
Okay. Now
he'd have been a young gun. I mean, Gonzalez is probably like, okay, admittedly, he's not a 5-time champion like Fangio.
No, exactly.
So Peterson in his Lotus shot straight into the lead. Hunt in the Hesketh made an amazing start to go from 5th to 2nd.
Wow. So there was some drama at the start, though, as Regazzoni in the Ferrari, who remember qualified second, made a very poor start, and he found himself surrounded by Revson in the shadow and Hailwood in the McLaren. Now, remember, Hailwood was like 9th. So these three touched, and both Regazzoni and Revson spun, and Hailwood got through unscathed.
So it's funny how these things happen, because due to this drama, is that a nonsense start by Regazzoni then? Because he put himself in that position?
Look, I would, from second to be spinning with Hailwood, who was 9th.
That's a nonsense.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, so let's call it nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So due to this drama at the very start, there was a domino effect because Jarier in the shadow rammed his teammate Revson and both shadows were out.
The number one rule in F1, Louis, don't take out your teammate. And especially like a small team like the Shadow team, like they can't afford this stuff. They really blew that.
Yeah, and you can't control these things. These things happen in split seconds, but they happen, right? There is even more drama on the first lap though, because Hunt not only made an amazing start, he proceeded to pass Peterson halfway around the opening lap.
Wow, Hunt is really aggressive in that Hesketh. They do say that he did have speed. He was a fast driver.
Should we put Hesketh into some context? We're guessing here, but I mean, we're recording this in mid-25, so this is a reference point for those. What would you call the Hesketh team of 74 to today?
Oh,
I know what I'm sort of thinking. I'd say they're like a Haas, maybe better than a Haas. Haas on a good day.
I'd say a bit better than a Haas. What's one up from a Haas? I was just trying to think. Is a one up from a Haas like a... Oh, nah. Is it like the Toro Rosso?
Yeah, the Toro Rosso Racing Bulls, whatever they're called.
Yeah, whatever they're called now. Is it like them?
Yeah, I'd say it's like them. So to put in context, if you're listening to this in 2025, we're seeing Hadjar go into the lead.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And passing Norris for the lead.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
That's what we're talking about. It gives you context, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Unfortunately, though, Hunt spun off at the first hairpin and dropped out of contention completely. So that kind of does sort of epitomise his driving style at this point of his career. He had incredible speed and bravery, but he was very prone to error. He had a reputation, and we said this in our last episode, and he did get called Hunt the Shunt. So... It's, this incident kind of epitomizes that whole vibe, really.
But not enough to stop people wanting him in their team.
No, because he was
you know
fast.
What I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
And he was worth the risk.
Oh, yeah. And he was a marketing boom. Like, he was good looking. Brands wanted to be with him. Like, he brought in the crowd. Yeah. So, yeah.
He was a party animal as well.
He was a party animal.
So the sponsors loved him.
yeah, absolutely. I kind of equate him to the modern equivalent of Jenson Button early in his career.
I never saw him that way. I
know you say that, but I did. I don't know. Maybe I just imagined it.
Maybe you were following him on the socials more than me, maybe. So yeah. So we'll talk about Hunt and his dramatics much more as the years progress, because he will be around for a while. But I suspect most teams are very interested in a driver that has his pace and hope they can get it in the team.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
we have the first lap with Peterson in the clear lead, with local hero Reutemann up in second place.
Yeah, so pretty good for Peterson. He did qualify 6th, so he was sort of up there. Fittipaldi in his McLaren debut was 3rd, followed by Hailwood, Ixholm, how did you tell me I had to say?
Oh, yeah, we haven't explained this. Should we explain it?
Yeah.
So there's a Brazilian driver that we recently have called Pace, P-A-C-E, but I asked a Brazilian colleague, how do you pronounce that? And apparently it's not Pace, it's, what was it? Pace.
Passe, yes.
But it depends
on. So we apologise for butchering your name.
But they admitted, but it depends on what part of Brazil they're from and this and this and that.
Okay.
So, and then I checked on Google and someone in a Facebook post pronounced it and they spelled it as Pache as the way we said it. So I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Okay. So maybe we'll continue with Pache, but we apologise if that's not right. And then Lauda followed.
Yeah. So for the first 3 laps, the crowd was glued to the front because Reutemann was right on the back of Peterson's Lotus. And it was very clear what happened on lap 3 when the crowd absolutely erupted.
Yes, that's right. Reutemann took the lead. Local hero. Peterson had issues with his engine, not giving the best on the straights. Plus, he was having issues with his front brakes. Reutemann started to pull away at about a second a lap. That's a lot. And it wasn't long before Holm in the McLaren quickly moved up to 3rd. Now, remember, he qualified like 10th and started challenging Peterson's 2nd place.
Yes, a bit of excitement in this race at the start. So by lap 10, a gaggle of cars had passed the stricken Peterson as he fell away. Poor Peterson, is he the new Eamon? You know?
Oh, I don't know. He's got a long way to go to get to Eamon level.
But look how many poles he got last year. It was ridiculous.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'll give you that.
This was early in the race, so he hadn't proved himself to be the legitimate winner. So I'm probably putting the groundwork in for the TP Championship. But who knows if he didn't have car issues at the start as well. So interestingly, Fittipaldi, he was about to fall out of contention himself when he accidentally switched off his ignition while changing gear. So he didn't realize what this is the funny thing. This is a new car problem, I guess. He didn't realize what he had done until after stopping on the side of the track.
I cannot believe he accidentally turned off his car.
Yeah.
That has to be a nonsense retirement, Louis. That is like...
It's pretty bad.
No, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. But this is in the era before they had all that all that free practice. Like, when the teams used to have, like I think in a later era of Formula One, there was a bit more money and no restrictions. Teams in the 90s and the 80s used to have a second team and they would be doing constant testing.
Yes.
So they'd have team A and team B and they didn't have this in the 70s. So
you reckon Fittipaldi just jumped in the car for practice in Argentina for the first time ever and he didn't know what the on-off button was?
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me, I think. What do you reckon?
Okay.
Yeah.
I find that really surprising, but you might be right. And there's nothing really written about practice sessions or anything like that before the season starts. But anyway, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he doesn't come back to the race, does he?
No, he finishes 10th and a lap down, so his race is over.
Okay, so back to the leaders. Reutemann in the Brabham, remember, continued to build up a substantial lead while Holm was himself doing similarly in 2nd place.
Yeah, so the attention now turned to the battle for 3rd between Ickx in the Lotus and Lauda in the Ferrari, which is interesting because Ickx's history.
Ex-Ferrari, yeah.
Yeah, so this issue resolved itself on lap 27 when Ickx suddenly eased up due to a puncture. So what do we say about 2nd place, Rosa?
It's pretty much 1st place.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. So on lap 36 of 53, Reutemann began to have issues. Here we go. At first, the top of his airbox worked loose and started to tilt above his head. Gosh, that
would have been weird.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
And then his car went to 7 cylinders, I'm guessing from 12. So the 30-second lead that Reutemann had built up was now really quickly disappearing.
And I'm not sure what's worse, an airbox about to fall onto your head, which I can't imagine because the wind must be pushing it back at about 200 to 300 kilometers an hour. But I guess it could obstruct his view if it did somehow fall forward, or the 7 cylinders. And so with a few laps to go, Reutemann was still in his rapidly diminishing lead, and then his engine started cutting out.
All right, I'm calling him the new Eamon. So this built up some real drama toward the end of the race because Holm was chasing Reutemann down. Remember, this is no car radio era. There's only probably some pit signs being hung out on the pit straight. The team couldn't really tell Holm what was going on or what was happening with Reutemann's car. So, yeah, they probably put out pit signs saying push or go or I don't know, something. And that's all he really had to work from.
Yeah, and it's a real era of trust. Like there's no attitude from the drivers back to the teams because if the sign says push, you just do it. There's a reason the team's telling you because they've got information. So the tension really mounted as the McLaren remorselessly honed in on the stricken Brabham, and on the penultimate lap, Holm finally passed Reutemann for the lead at the Argentinian Grand Prix.
Wow. I'm surprised it took this long, really, but I think, you know, Reutemann was just pushing, and we have heard of his like racing technique, and he's very determined and dogged racer. So, but the bad news for Reutemann wasn't over, as halfway around the final lap, the Brabham spluttered to a halt with no fuel. It was probably because he was pushing so hard.
Yeah,
Used up
30
all his
second lead.
fuel.
I wonder if he caused this to himself. He built up a 30-second lead. Yeah, he got the excitement of the country, you know?
That's right.
So this is a clean podcast, but there are many words we can say that would explain that feeling. So you can imagine those words. So Reutemann could only watch as Lauda moved up into second place in the Ferrari, followed by Regazzoni in the other Ferrari.
And a win for home, Louis. Out of nowhere. He started 10th. And another positive for me, from my perspective, 2 Ferraris on the podium. 1-2. Was it? No,
Yeah.
2-3. 2-3.
2-3. And I'll just emphasize another thing about Holman. He was 10th. He was also the 3rd fastest McLaren. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Fittipaldi turned off his freaking car.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't... Yes. So to the driver championship, we have Denny Holm in the lead on 9 points. Niki Lauda second on 6, and Regazzoni third on 4. And in the constructors, we've got McLaren 9, Ferrari 6, and BRM on 2, Louis. They'll sell more sports cars from that.
Yeah, let's give credit to Beltoise for achieving that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in his
All
fifth
right.
place.
Well, we might actually leave it there for this episode, and we'll come back with part 2.
Okay, see you next time, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye.